To finish this afternoon, we have two speakers from Peel Mining. Mark Ockerby, the Chairman of Peel, holds a Masters of Law and has over 35 years' experience as a Director of ASX mining companies, currently Capricorn Metals and Red Hill Iron. Rob Tyson, Technical Director at Peel Mining, is a geologist with more than 25 years industry experience and was previously the recipient of the 2009 AMAC Prospector Award for the discoveries of the South COBAR project deposits Mallee Bull, Wirlong and Southern Nights. So we'll start with Mark Ockerby from Peel Mining. Thank you.
Thank you, Digby, and thank you, Digby, diggers and dealers, and good afternoon. Unfortunately, our Managing Director, Jim Simpson, has suffered an injury last week and has not been able to make it, so he's dropped this job onto myself and Rob. I'm going to provide an overview of Peel, in particular where we're at with our copper assets, and then Rob's going to provide you an update on our exploration pipeline. I won't worry about the disclosures, you're more than welcome to read them at your leisure. Snapshot of Peel, we've got a current market capitalisation of 75 million, which I think qualifies us as a small cap. We hold $12 million in cash at the 30th of June. We're debt-free, royalty-free. We own 100% of all of our tenements, and we own the pastoral leases upon which our copper deposits, Mallee Bull and Wirlong, are located. We've got no third-party impediments to development. Peel's copper resources are primarily contained in the two deposits, Mallee Bull and Wirlong, which were Greenfield's discovery by the company under Rob. And we have there just under 200,000 tonnes of high-grade copper, average grade of just on 1.85%. And where we're at now is we're proceeding to advance these into production as two underground mines. Our pre-feasibility study work is underway. We've been fortunate enough to be given $500,000 from the New South Wales Government Critical Metal Activation Fund towards the cost of the pre-feasibility. We've got our long lead items for permitting advanced, including environmental studies, heritage studies, and we've also sought early approval from the regulators for the construction of an exploration decline at Mallee Bull, and that's currently with the regulator for approval. Peel is well positioned to capitalise on the tightening in the copper market, which people have been talking about for quite a while. But there's no doubt it's going to occur because it's been driven by the increased demand for electrification. And as this graph shows, copper stocks are now at historic lows. And as Robert Friedland put it, dare I say it here, more important than gold are our electrical grids. We're at a 50-year lows in copper stocks, just graphically put, 11 hours of supply. Our 20 million tonnes of resources are all within the COBAR Basin, which is an active mineralised province with 3 operating mines. Recent corporate activity has taken place in this copper basin, including metals acquisitions, limited completion of the US $1.1 billion acquisition of the CSA copper mine from Glencore, and Aurelia Metals Limited have also successfully completed their debt refinancing and capital raising to enable the resumption of development of their Federation lead zinc deposit. The orange and yellow is the tenement holding of CSA and Aurelia. The green is Peel's tenement holding. Both of those companies have a surplus milling capacity, although their plans are obviously to fill that with their own ore. As I said, we hold 3,500 square kilometres tenure, 20 million tonnes of resources, and this is a region familiar with mining, has considerable existing infrastructure and a mining workforce. In addition to our copper assets at Mallee Bull and Wirlong, where we've got 10.6 million tonnes at 1.85 grams of copper, primarily at Southern Nights, Waggatank, we hold a significant zinc, lead and silver resource, 296,000 tonnes of zinc, 128,000 tonnes of lead and 15 million ounces of silver, and this is outside our pre-feasibility scoping at this point in time, as our immediate development focuses on our copper resources. But Southern Nights, Wagga Tanks is still not fully explored, and Rob Tyson will take you through the potential when he takes over. This bubble chart evidences where our South Cobar copper project sits amongst the undeveloped resources copper resources in Australia, and as you will see, it's clearly amongst the highest grade undeveloped copper resources in the market. We're targeting completing our pre-feasibility study to the end of this calendar year, second quarter financial year, and we've got appointed GR Engineering to undertake the scoping and costing of a standalone processing plant. We've done a lot of metallurgical test work. What we've got clearly evidenced is that we have a clean premium product which is of market interest, and we can deliver that from both Mallee Bull and Wirlong. We've also undertaken ore sorting test work which confirms that we can use ore sorting to improve the economics of mining and transporting ore to a central processing plant. And as I said earlier, we've got environmental studies and heritage work progressing, and to date no fatal flaws have been identified. So at that point I'll hand over to Rob, who will take you through our exploration pipeline.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Digby, and thanks to Diggers and Dealers to give me the opportunity to talk about Peel's exploration upside once again. So we've put together over a 10-year period a dominant land position in the COBAR Basin. Mark mentioned around 3,500 square kilometres, and I guess we've been in the very fortunate position to make discoveries over the last decade. But each time we've made those discoveries, they've sucked us in for a few years to define them and then drill them out for resources. We've still got over 50 targets on that ground, and some of them are very high priority, and that's essentially outside of our brownfields opportunities, which are obviously at Mallee Bull, Wirlong and Wagga Tank Southern Nights trend. I guess the standout Southern Nights is an area I'll talk to in a minute, as well as Wirlong around the brownfields opportunities. But our activities over the last really 6 months have been focused on pulling together all the historical data that we haven't had an opportunity to fully review because of, I guess, our fortunes. And we've been analysing that data, and it's sort of brought 4 targets to the top of our heap, 4 or 5 targets that we're closely looking at and have geophysics planned over the coming year. We're also planning some drilling around those targets, so I'll take you through some of those opportunities. So Wirlong, the brownfields opportunities, the main resource area, you can see the Wirlong mineral resource estimate area there in the red circle. That's approximately 4 million tonnes at around 2% copper. But we've got a lot of copper that is diffuse away from that mineral resource area. We've undertaken some IP geophysics more recently to the north of Wirlong, and we believe there's an opportunity. There's some chargeable IP anomalism sitting off to the west, the northwest. So we're very interested in those targets. We think they have the potential to deliver either more copper mineralisation or potentially some lead zinc. But we've planned some drill holes, and we are hoping to get to those targets in the coming year. Southern Nights, look, this is it's got some wonderfully high-grade mineralisation within this system. Just some of those numbers there: 32 metres at around 18% combined lead zinc. There's a couple of stellar hits there, 18 metres at 55% combined lead zinc. That speaks to the tenor that can exist in these systems. It's around 2 kilometres of strike across this system as we know it at the moment. But essentially some of the geophysics and geochemical and geological indicators that we've been looking at over the last year or two really have pointed us to this link zone, which is slightly deeper. But when you look at it, essentially when we've looked at the stratigraphic environment that it's situated in, Fasci's analysis, we've determined that this link zone, which is, as you can see, is very poorly drilled around the intercepts that we've had, it certainly has the opportunity to provide a substantial upside to that deposit, and I could see the potential to double the size of that resource that we have there with some successful exploration drilling. So it's got all the right indicators, the geological environment certainly with exhalative horizons nearby these high-grade intercepts, and certainly the rhyolite that we're seeing suggests that we really should step out and do some drilling in that area. Around some of the targets, so the 23-24 regional targets that we're looking at, we've got a number of prospects: Ambergris, Armageddon, Double Peak, Sandy Creek and Badooba. Sort of 5 targets we've recognised, and each of these have already got significant geochem anomalism coupled with magnetic and, in one case, IP anomalism, and that's the Ambergris area there. We're getting surface geochem anomalism, which is the signature that you look for in COBAR with lead particularly, but we're getting rock chips with elevated multi-element within the horizon that we're most interested in, and certainly the IP chargeability that's coincident with the magnetic anomalism is reminiscent of the Federation discovery, which is in the corridor that we're essentially targeting. So we've got IP planned to extend that, but also cover these high prospectivity targets, and we're hoping for another discovery from one of those prospects. Peel Far West, look, this is some ground that we've been focusing in on, I guess, over the last couple of years. We've pegged some tenements out to the west of Broken Hill, essentially under the Mundi Plains. We've been building a land holding. We've got around 400 square kilometres out there now. They're the same. It's a Curnamona Basin, or province, I should say. So the same rocks that host, obviously, Olympic Dam and Broken Hill. But this area has been scant on modern exploration in a lot of ways. Certainly the drilling is lacking, and what we can see is potential for IOCG or even Broken Hill type mineralisation, as well as magmatic nickel copper PGE. So we've expanded our footprint. There is a magnetic feature that's common through the South Australian side of the Curnamona. It represents a redox boundary, and I won't go into the detail on that, but what we know about it is it hosts copper, gold, uranium mineralisation in South Australia. So it's received very little exploration on this tenement. We've got around 20 kilometres of strike, so we see plenty of opportunity to target that horizon. But there's also some significant zinc-lead intercepts, as well as multi-geophysical coincident anomalism. And look, this is an interesting target that sits on one of our tenements, and I guess I'm just highlighting one of the targets. It's a coincident magnetic and gravity anomaly. It had one drill hole by Broken Hill South in 1966. They went into a magnetite-bearing peroxenite with highly anomalous copper. They didn't push through to the basal contact, which is something I think probably at the time wasn't well recognised. The Broken Hill part of I guess going back in Rodinia supercontinent is believed to have been connected to sort of the Jinshuan magmatic area in China, but it broke apart. So we believe this target's got potential for offering that magmatic nickel copper PGE style mineralisation, and certainly we hope over the coming year we can get out there and have a closer look at it. And that sort of finalises the exploration upside.
Okay, thanks very much, Rob, and thanks, Mark. We have actually run over time, so we haven't got time for questions. We'll now take a quick break and then back in about 10 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us.